Welcome to Rooted and Rising, a soulful podcast hosted by Dr. Cheri and Ellice Boone. Join the conversation as Dr. Cheri and Ellice explore the transformative power of holistic healing from the inside out. Together, they guide listeners through the deep work of reconnecting with their roots, uncovering the unconscious wounds that shape us, and rising into the fullness of our higher selves. So please, welcome the hosts of Rooted and Rising, Dr. Cheri and Ellice Boone.
Hello. Have you ever gotten through a whole day and find that your energy is completely drained, realizing that you really did nothing physical at all? You think, where has that energy gone? Welcome to Rooted and Rising. Today you're here with Dr. Cheri and my co-host Ellice Boone. And we are actually diving in a little deeper into the topics of energy and how we carry energy within our bodies, how we are energy, and then how that impacts our world, our everyday life. You know, um, I don't think a lot of times we think about that. We think outside things impact our energy when the reality is a lot of times our energy is grows and expands and accelerates or depletes and drains from the inside out. And so we had this pretty lengthy talk about last session. So if you didn't hear last episode, please go listen to it and get the little background about energy, and then stay with us today so we can talk about more practical ways how energy impacts us.
Yeah, happy to be here, Cheri. I think last time we realized that we had a lot to say about energy, and it surprised both of us. It's seems like a simple topic, but it's something that affects every single human. And so today we kind of want to give some really practical tips on how to create certain boundaries to protect our energy, or how to, you use the word supercharge our energy. And I loved that word. So we were going to dive into that. And we'll start off with a meditation and kind of get us set up
Okay.
for it. So if you are in a place that you can be private and it's a quiet place without interruptions, I want to invite you to either sit in a chair, or if it's comfortable for you to lay down, that also works. So once you've found your comfortable space, go ahead and close your eyes if that feels good to you. And here with your eyes closed, I want you to just allow yourself to sink into your body. And one way we can do this is by resting our attention on our breath. So noticing our inhale, noticing our exhale. I am aware of my inhale. I am aware of my exhale. Keep saying that inside of your mind for a few moments as you breathe naturally. And here, as you sit or lay, I want you to just take note of how you feel in your body in this moment. Noticing any points that feel tight, constricted, any tension. And then also noticing any places that might feel more open, more expansive, a little softer. And now noticing how energized you feel today in this moment. And you have a gauge for what's natural and normal for you. So just noticing where you're at. Noticing if you're above normal with energy or below. And also noticing here if energy feels revved up and moving quickly, or if it feels more calm, or if it's low, does it feel heavy? Does it feel contracted? Are there any places or even overall that it feels very numb? with no feeling. And now imagine this energy that you're feeling today as this source that's inside of your body, like a light source. And if you're imagining your energy that you feel right now as a source of light, imagine if that light is bright or is it dim? Does it feel scattered or is it steady? Even if that energy could have a sound, what would that sound be like? Just noticing here without judgment, observing and allowing your thoughts to rise up without forcing. And if no thoughts come, nothing specific arises, that's also okay to just be here in this moment, taking each breath and noticing your breath. And now I want to invite you to imagine more precisely on your inhale that you're bringing in life force into your body. So as you breathe in, try breathing in through the nose, deep breath in, pulling that life force into your body. And with every exhale, I want you to just release everything. So on the inhale, feeling that life force growing stronger. And on the exhale, shedding away anything that doesn't serve you. On the next inhale, imagining that light inside you is growing stronger, brighter. And on the exhale, letting go of the need to perform, letting go of the need to fix or change. On the next inhale, feeling that life force just filling your body, filling your cells, expanding out. And on the exhale, letting go of any obligation, any expectation from yourself, from anyone else, just letting it melt away. And the inhale, allowing your body to soften, allowing just a little softness to any parts that feel contracted. And on the exhale, releasing any pressure, any tension, just allowing yourself again to melt into your body and soften. And now I want you to visualize as you continue your breathing at a natural pace. On each inhale, imagine that you're breathing in this warm golden light. It can come in from anywhere that feels right, from the top of your head or in through your heart space and your lungs here. And just imagine as you breathe in, it expands further into your body. And as you breathe out, it gets brighter and clearer and stronger. So now do those conscious breaths, imagining the inhale expanding, the exhale brightening and growing stronger. Keep going here, filling your body with that breath, that light. On the exhale, it grows stronger, brighter. It's expanding through the body, through the legs, the arms, and it's going outward further and further out as it grows stronger and brighter, continuing to grow with each inhale and each exhale, making this light stronger, brighter inside of you. Few more breaths here, really generating that energy with your breath, generating that life force, expanding it and feeling it grow stronger with every breath. And when you feel complete here, I want you to sit in that warmth. Feel that buzz of energy flowing through you. imagining the light as it shines and pulses with energy and glowing. And maybe ask yourself here, what do I need to do today to sustain this energy? Again, allowing whatever comes up to arise in any form, words, colors, sensations. There's no right or perfect answer. And maybe that's just stillness. So now taking a deep final breath in through the nose and a long, slow exhale through the mouth, extending that exhale just a bit longer than normal. And gently return back into the space. Just noticing here if there's any subtle shifts in how your body feels, in the clarity of the mind, or just overall your mood or emotional state. If there's been any subtle shifts, if that has gone one way or the other, just taking note. And if not, that's okay too. Just noticing what it was like to be in touch with yourself for a few minutes today. And now coming back into the space. And yeah, I just want to invite Cheri back in and thank you for joining us on that meditation. And would love to check in and see how that felt and what that was like for you. Do we have Cheri still on here? There we go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Oh, that was beautiful. That was beautiful. Like I say, I always love your meditations. And this time, what came to my mind was I recognized, I reflected on when, before I really understood energy, I would get my body energized through running, a lot with running, and it's beautiful. That's a beautiful way of running. But sometimes I got enamored with, okay, running those when my marathons 20 to 26, how exertion I had to, build energy to do that. But it was a lot of effort, for me, who's probably not such a great athlete, but loved the marathons. And so, and then today it was, and I could go immediately into that inner energy, which today what I noticed was, it's a calmness, but it's a power, and I felt this sweetness. And then in my inner eye, I saw it's like all my colors. It was like I saw myself as colors. I first saw myself as that golden light from my heart center, and then through my body, like this river of colors. And I just wanted to stay there. It was just so sweet. And now I could feel tingly all of my body. And so I do feel that super energy. I feel pretty energized and awake, and but my body's still a little tingly, and so I'm loving it. And my feet feel really rooted on the ground. And I say that because I don't really pay attention throughout the day unless I purposely do a moment to ground myself. But this one is like, I feel like they're really grounded and steady, and it feels really good. And so I hope people will go and do this meditation, because I think there's no such thing as really losing energy. I mean, energy never dies, but we can drain our energy, or we can charge our energy. We just need to ask for it. That's really what it's all about.
Yeah,
So thank you.
absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's so interesting how our energy can be charged in different ways. It's very individual. And so it's beautiful. You could tap right into it in this meditation. And I think that comes too with so many years of practice with working with your own energy and meditation and all these different tools that, you've been practicing for many years. And I think whatever it felt like for our listeners, even if that was, not much, then just keep going back at it, keep touching in and seeing the next time if you can expand the energy a little bit more. So I know we have to take a commercial break, but when we get back, we're going to dive into some more practical. See
Great.
you after
Thank
that.
you.
Mike Zoric, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a 6-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorick, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorick has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Hi, welcome back to Root and Rising. Again, Dr. Cheri and Ellice. We're very excited to be here to talk about, our energy. And I think a good place to start is, where do we have energy leaks? We hear faucets leak. Where do we leak energy? And I don't think so much of us have problems with energy per se. I think we have problems managing our energy and understanding how it works. And so I thought, okay, maybe we should just give a list of some common energy issues that could be leaks. And I think one we talked about, before is, but not in this context, is people pleasing. We think that can be energizing in the moment. It can be exhilarating, but it can actually be draining because it's people pleasing. Saying no when we mean we're saying yes when we mean no, not but that because we feel like we have to, right? So I think that is definitely a common one. Constant caretaking, especially for women. It's our natural tendency to be caretaking, or our emotional labor. It kind of falls into that. But we just are we speak from the heart, and so we may labor there. Perfectionism, common one. Living in survival mode. This one is one that is more common than we realize, and easy for us to go to and not know we were doing it. Overthinking. I think that is a ruminating. Decision fatigue, and sometimes as women, we have to make the decisions. We can multitask, so it's easy for it, but we can get fatigued by that. Comparison, a horrible one, but we all do it. Lack of sleep, that is so major. Blood sugar crashes, chronic inflammation, some of these physical ones that sneak up on us, clutter and unfinished tasks, or living disconnected from nature. And I was, as I went through this, I was thinking I probably would have last week picked a different one, but this week I finally got I haven't been out running on a regular basis. I've been doing other things, and I went for a run just yesterday, and I was able to go on the trails. And I as I was running and walking along the trails, I could feel all of a sudden this surge of energy run through me from the ground. Maybe that's why I feel so grounded today. But this surge of energy, and I think for the very first time to this extent, I felt like I was nature. It was so beautiful. And I found myself smiling and feeling happy. And it's like, where is this coming from? And I looked around, every little living creature like caught my attention, and it seemed so sweet. And I stopped and talked to the bunnies, and it was just really fascinating that I found myself like being so this deeply connected. I love nature. I have connection, but this was a super energy power. So I just can't emphasize enough. So I'm kind of infatuated with that still. And but some, another one that I think I struggled probably with in the past was, which I'm really working to let go of, is emotional labor. Maybe it's my profession, maybe it's my personality, but I really learned in my seasoning how important is, how emotional labor I would really robs. It's like it drains me from energy, but it sucks energy from the other person. It does twofold, because it's when we don't trust the other person can carry their emotions, by themselves, and we all can carry what we have, but a lot of times our person in front of us doesn't believe they can. And as mothers, we're going to carry the emotional energy of our children as they learn to self-soothe and develop and grow and tap into the other survival skills. So it's easy for us to fall into that, and then unwind it. And to see it is a little more challenging because we don't always know we're doing it. And so that's been one that I've learned over the few years. And since I really rarely do it anymore, I feel that shift. I feel a relaxation in my shoulders. I used to have this chronic back pain in my upper back where you can't even touch between the shoulder blades. I don't have that anymore. And I know I was carrying something that wasn't mine, and tied. And so it's just really, really wonderful. So those are a couple that I've experienced.
Yeah.
I love you, Carrie, at least.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think I can relate to each of them for sure. And I think in different seasons in my life, I've experienced energy leaks from these places on every single one. I would say in the past, people pleasing was really heavy for me. And I feel like that kind of ties in the caretaking, the saying yes when you mean no. It's like not honoring what you actually need. And a few years ago, started tracking my cycle of hormones and really noticing at the different seasons of my cycle each month that I would have very unique like needs, and they would shift. And I started studying about it and learning more about it. And so now I live in more of a rhythm with that. And with that, I've sort of like said no to things, in a certain phase of my cycle, because I know that even right now when I'm feeling great, in 2 weeks from now, I'm going to have a little subtle energy shift, and I'm not going to want to be as outward and around as many people. And so I'm not going to say yes to that big event, that big social gathering. I'm going to say no to that now, or a maybe. And so I stopped putting myself in those situations where I felt really obligated to do things and see people, or even emotional labor, having meetings with people or moving through really heavy or intense conversations during the time where I was more depleted and needed more rest and downtime. So that's been a really fascinating piece for me.
That is
um,
fascinating.
to manage that and be tracking and syncing with what is honoring my energy for that time in my cycle. Mind you, that can shift and change, each month. It's not always exactly the same, but having an overview of it and the awareness of it has really helped me. um, and I would say now in this moment, this week, I would say doom scrolling is the thing that's getting me. It's like that, oh, I'm just going to put this one thing on Instagram, and then you just get caught. And then you're just scrolling and scrolling. And I don't know if it's doom scrolling for me necessarily, but just the feeling of I will put my phone down after, 15 minutes of just scrolling through this emptiness, and I just feel depleted. I just can literally feel that my energy is lower than when I picked up my phone. And so that's something I'm really working on, setting boundaries for myself and checking myself there. Because if I do that 5 times a day, look at all that energy that I'm draining out. What a waste. What a waste of my precious energy. So that's the one I'm working with currently.
I love it. That is beautiful. I would love for us just to sit down and just kind of everyone reflect on what drains them the fastest. And I love the fact that you brought in the body.
Yeah.
We're embodied, and so much of, the list talks about, the chronic inflammation, yes, it could be so many ways. Your hormones fluctuating, and you being so in tune with your body to be able to even reflect on that. And as women, I think we learn to not be in tune with our bodies, like override our bodies. And that's what I was saying a little bit with the, marathon running. You're trained, they say your body starts depleting once you hit 20 miles, no matter what kind of elite athlete you are. And from 20 to 26 is just depletion. And and I would like be fascinated with that energy because I could override the depletion to get to the end. But it really it was probably more prideful than healthy, you know?
Mm.
And so that is dollar training, probably healthy. Last six, not so healthy. And so I'm fascinated that as women, we tend to do that. That could be part of the, again, emotional labor, saying yes when we mean no, or wanting to say no, not even meaning no, really wanting to say no, screaming in our head, we override that. That overriding is what we tend to do so well. And you're not overriding your cycle. Yeah, if this week is this, I'm down. That's just beautiful because I think our body is so intelligent, and we're gifted our bodies. I feel like everything is connected, it's divine. And so we need to learn to love our bodies and what our bodies give us, and the resilience required of our bodies. And I have a sister who has cerebral palsy. And so and she's hard of hearing, but she also struggles. She can't walk now. And for years, she didn't take her first steps till she was 7. We were out in the front yard. But the labor it took for her to walk. But her body was so, I was always enamored about the resilience of her body in carrying this, handicap that she couldn't run, but boy, she could work her body and show what miracles a body could create. She learned to walk, she learned to drive. She was doing so many things in her um, youth, and that should not have happened. And so our bodies really do love us when we love them. And she's just a ball of love energy. So she loves everything, everybody, including herself. And so it's a great example too. And that source, that love energy is really so powerful. And we've talked about in other episodes. But that just reminded me, I think it's loving yourself when you pay attention to your body. So thank you for sharing that. That was beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, you just sparked something in me that I thought of when we were going over this podcast, and it was Joe Dispenza. Many people would know him, a big author, and he's done some incredible and powerful work with his meditations. And one of his meditations I used to listen to often, it kind of like allows you to get into your heart space and imagine the love in your heart. And then he expands the energy from there. And I just can picture or hear his voice in my head right now. He's like, "You feel that? That's energy." And he's so passionate about it. And it's almost like, whoa, it's almost alarming. But I have had really incredible meditations listening to his guidance where I can just feel my whole body buzzing and humming with energy. And his platform that he builds on is that we can like self heal with this kind of energy by like expanding that energy. We can heal parts of our bodies and send energy to it to allow it to repair, which is amazing. And it's been, studied immensely, and it's incredible what people have found and what they've come out of: diseases, cancers, all these things, from sending energy and cultivating energy in their body. So yeah, it's pretty incredible that we have this sort of superpower. It's like a magical power that we have access to, and it's about
Yes.
learning how we can use it, learning how to sort of hone the skill, what works for us personally as an individual, and then how we can just keep practicing that to accomplish all types of things. Um, but here in this moment, we're really kind of talking about how do we drain. And so if you've thought about this list, if something struck you on the list that we just named all of these things, or something else came to mind, we encourage you to think on that and think on ways that you can protect from those things, to start making subtle shifts in your life, to maybe stop saying yes when you mean no, or stop doom scrolling, whatever it is for you, to just do less of it if you can. Okay, we have another commercial break, but we're going to come back and talk more about this.
In a moment.
Master of words, powerful player, What life-changing words can Dr. Janet Smith Warfield pull out of her magical toolbox that just might mysteriously open a door you never knew was there? A door to free yourself from fear forever. Transform your rage into right action. Release your guilt. Position you into a life of freedom, purpose, passion, power, and peace. All quite suddenly, unexpectedly, and almost miraculously, with no effort on your part. Join Dr. Janet on Dancing with Words, Dancing with Wisdom, as she and her guests show you how words map our experiences, immersing you in a sound bath that relaxes your muscles, opens your mind, and supports you in co-creating your extraordinary life. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness: Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals.
Welcome back to Root and Rising, Dr. Cheri with Ellice. We just talked about those energy leaks and all the different ways that we can, end up overgiving ourselves and letting the leak happen and lose connection with ourselves. And so, I encourage you, instead of asking, what do I want? Maybe ask, also, begin asking, not what I want. We should ask what I want, I should say, instead of asking whatever else needs. We don't always. We almost feel selfish to ask for what we want, but we need to explore where we are, start with where we're at, and then begin there, and really be, if you could do the meditation that Elise talked about, you can kind of check in and say, okay, yeah, I carry all these roles, which we talked a lot about last time, of motherhood and relationships and careers. And I'm really concerned more about, how resentment is ignored, because it's also one of the first signals where we abandon ourselves. And they say, unresolved resentment is the core of dis-ease in our body. And it really robs us from our being able to live our full self. And the authentic feminine energy is so beautiful. It's such a strength, and society has made it, through the years, a weakness. And also we're almost scared to talk about feminine energy versus masculine energy, and both energies are gorgeous. We have both energies, but we tend to minimize the being, which is feminine energy, versus the doing. And the being comes across with first, what Elise talked about when she left is that heart, heart energy. We speak from the heart. We love. That heart love is from the feminine authenticity. It's receptivity, it's creativity, it's intuition, our presence and our flow. It's actually our permission to rest, which is being. And then, and so we don't want to lose that. And that usually is what gets squished out more than anything. That's what I find. So I encourage, reflect on where is, I embrace and love my authentic energy? How do I really honor and give reverence to it?
Mhm. Yeah, beautiful. I want to go back for just a moment and just like pause on what you said about resentment, because I think that that's something that lives in sort of like an underlying way in many of us. And you
Very much
said
so.
resentment is the first sign of abandoning yourself. That's such a powerful point, because I think we are often doing that. We're often putting our loved ones' needs ahead of our own. And in that, we can be abandoning ourselves over and over. And what happens when we do that? It starts to build resentment. And then what happens when resentment keeps building? It causes disease in our body. I mean, looking at that, like, oh, me doing this caretaking thing that's almost like honored in our society as like the best way to be, but yet can be completely ignoring all the things that we need to be a healthy human. What's that thing on the airplane? Put the mask on yourself first before you put the mask on your child. We need to do that in life. We have to take care of our needs and our basic human needs first, and also then our emotional and physical needs. And then we can help others. Then we can give from a full cup. So it's something that often gets flipped.
And that is the way to really have accurate discernment on how to meet another person's needs. When we're in touch with our needs and we take care of our needs, we just can discern, how to help another person learn how to take care of their own needs. Or then like, I have extra energy to give this person, and then there is no room for resentment. And resentment, is unresolved anger, and unresolved anger turned inward equals depression and every other disease in the body. And so then we've completely lost all sense of self and purpose. And a lot of times that gets misconstrued, but it's not completely misconstrued, but it gets just categorized in regret, which usually happens late in life. And we just want to catch that before everyone has to go through that, because there is so unnecessary if hardship to go through, and suffering to go through, if we can really understand just simply our energy. Begin with that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good segue into the little energy audit we wanted to do with you listeners. So it's kind of like, how do we recognize the signs that we're disconnected from ourselves? That's the first step, being aware of it. So we want you to ask yourselves, are there ways that you feel you can't find your enjoyment in life anymore? Do you feel guilty about resting? Are you feeling constantly overstimulated? um, some people feel they don't even recognize themselves. Is that something you've experienced? Do you feel emotionally just flatlined? Just there's no ups, there's no downs, it's just flat. Does joy and access to joy feel distant or far away or hard to reach? Does everything in your life feel like just another responsibility or obligation? Do you feel like your nervous system can never fully settle, never fully relax? You're just always revved high. So those are some of the ways that can tell you some of those things. If you relate to any one of those things, then you might be feeling these first signs of really abandoning the self, being disconnected from the self, and this could be coming from some of those energy drains. So I guess we want to ask ourselves in this moment, this is the next part of the audit. What gives you energy? What drains your energy? This is unique to each individual. There's no right or wrong answer here. Um, what are things that when you started doing them and you finished it, you felt more alive? And then it could be relationships, environments, or even your own personal habits that leave you feeling more depleted. So do this. Maybe it's a journal prompt. Maybe in this moment, some things rose to the surface or really jumped out at you that are just, this is the thing. The awareness of this is the most important first step in this journey. So identifying those things and come back to this if you want, and maybe journal out some of those answers to some of those questions and see where that takes you.
No, thank you, Lisa, because this is really significant. I've said in other episodes, I tell my clients all the time, I tell myself all the time, one of the most difficult tasks that we have is to really understand and then be able to implement self-awareness. We talk about it and we think we're self-aware, but rarely do we present to other people that how they interpret our presentation as we interpret our presentation.
Mm,
And so it really is, unless we are really self-aware and take the time with self-reflection, all the journal prompts, write the journal prompts, and then be curious,
mm,
about and the our own individual idiosyncrasies. Because a lot of times what we do, especially as women, we run from them, we compartmentalize them, we deny them, and really they're little gifts for us to understand, okay, maybe that is a nervous energy issue. Maybe that is an energy draining issue. Oh, maybe that is, something I treasure and makes me uniquely Sherry. Maybe that is something I want to teach other people. But we don't even get that far because we forget, which again, curiosity is a authentic feminine energy. So we really want to gain that and let it grow. It's so fun, to be able to be explore who we are. If we think about there. Oh, I just watched a video. My husband showed me a video just yesterday about a baby owl that someone found, and they took the baby owl home, and they ended up raising the baby owl until it was old enough to put in the wilderness. It was so cute. The owl just became slept with them. They dressed him up. It just a very little personality. And then they put the baby owl out, and the baby owl came back. Wasn't a baby anymore. Came back, and they would feed him, and then send him off his way. And then he came back, and he wanted to stay. And so they ended up, you know, dressing him up, taking him all over the world to different places, and other owls and and wildlife, and then lastly they gave him they got a cat, and first the owl did not like that cat, and the next thing you know, they're sleeping together. The owls cuddled with the kitten, because they knew that the owl needed another companion, and it's but there was so much energy put into investing in this owl and learning every each, and just watching the video, I was invested. How much of that kind of energy do we put into ourselves? If we
Mm.
get that kind of interest, that kind of curiosity, that kind of creativity, that kind of love and devotion, gosh, how can we not fall in love with ourselves? And then be full of energy always, and probably reverse our age. It just made me think about these things. It's not a small thing. This is like ginormous if we can start investing in ourselves.
That's so true. Okay, so let's run through some ways that we can invest in ourselves. We created a list, and I'll just like throw out some things that work for me off the list, and maybe Sherry, you can add things that you resonate with that work for you. Well, I'll say sleep is super important for me, and whenever I decide to, change that, and of course, we have nights where we're going to stay up later, and times where we just don't get good rest, but sleep deeply impacts how I feel the next day and how my energy levels are. And if I don't get the sleep I need, and if I sacrifice that, then I suffer the next day. So sleep and making that a priority. And that has started for me with like sleep habits before going to bed, that I'm not to look at screens, that I'm trying to like have a warm cup of tea and have the lights dim. So I'm trying to do that, as well as trying to see the sunset, trying to see the morning light. So I really sync up my circadian rhythm. And so those things have helped with my sleep, just being more nourishing for me. Breath work has been really powerful for me as well. And we've done a little bit on the podcast, and I think we'll do more in the future. But that can look so many different ways. Breath work can be, really deep breathing, really fast breathing, and over oxygenating your body. Or it can just be taking a deep inhale and a slower, longer exhale to allow your nervous system to settle. For me, that's the one I probably use the most, that just allows me to calm down and slow down. And sometimes just doing that with like my hand on my heart and just really feeling it. It's like a moment for me that can shift my perspective. It's really beautiful how small it is and how impactful it can be. And I would say the last thing is
Great.
just nature. Nature's, I always say it on the show, it's just my go-to, being in nature, my feet on the ground, putting my feet in the creek that we have down in the back, just looking up at the trees, feeling the wind on my face, allowing my senses to engage with my surroundings. And you mentioned the owl, and I thought, oh my gosh, and how your walk was in nature. I've had that recently too, with like, there was these three adorable little snails. It was like a mama snail and a baby snail. And I just like sat and watched them for a couple minutes. I was running out the door and I stopped. And I was like, this is the cutest thing. Look at how cool these creatures are. So just taking in the beauty of nature. I didn't have extra 5 minutes to spare, but I did. And it was a beautiful moment, and it changed my day. So little moments like that are amazing. Okay. And I ran us over. We're going to go into commercial break, and maybe Sherry, you can share some of your hacks to get back.
Sounds great.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Master of words, powerful player. What life-changing words can Dr. Janet Smith Warfield pull out of her magical toolbox that just might mysteriously open a door you never knew was there? A door to free yourself from fear forever. Transform your rage into right action. Release your guilt. Position you into a life of freedom, purpose, passion, power, and peace. All quite suddenly, unexpectedly, and almost miraculously, with no effort on your part. Join Dr. Janet on Dancing with Words, Dancing with Wisdom, as she and her guests show you how words map our experiences, immersing you in a sound bath that relaxes your muscles, opens your mind, and supports you in co-creating your extraordinary life.
Hi, welcome back to Rooted and Rising. You're here with Elise and Dr. Cheri. And Dr. Cheri, we'd love to hear some of the ways that you personally like to recharge your energy. Hopefully, give some ideas to some of our listeners.
Yeah, I'd love to. More recently, I've noticed I love the hydration. I love water. The healing. We're 75% of water, so I can feel when I drink water. I mindfully, one, thank it, and then just feel it run through the courses of my veins. It feels like it just runs through my body, and then being in the water, and that just energizes me. The energy. I feel like the water just feeds me so much, and so I love that aspect, and movement. I love stretching. Like I said, I love running, walking. I think movement just helps me be embodied, and I think I need that. I need to feel embodied. And then I really need the more of the spiritual ones. I love the meditation and prayer and just feeling a connection with on that realm, and that I always walk away feeling like a boost. I just got a booster shot of vitamin B12 or something, and so
Yeah.
I also don't feel alone. I feel like so in community of some sort, and so that has been really great for me. And as I advance in where I am with life situation as a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and then running a place to turn. I have all these clinicians are like my children, and so I think that I really have looked for things like alignment over perfection. I want us to be aligned. I want that community. I want them to all come from a place of heart. So having core values. I've always taught that with my clinicians and my clients and my clinicians and my kids. But I want to be living according to my values and like check in. Am I doing that? And do I feel like I woke up in the middle of the night because I didn't sleep so well, but I found myself wanting to express gratitude. And it felt so, and that was a little energizing for the middle of the night. So it didn't help with the sleep, but it did help me feel embodied and great. And this is where I really, I think is important when we think about this is, are we being authentic? I think we should take a moment and think, am I authentic? Am I being authentic right now? I think that alone creates a surge of energy because we're embodied and we're checking in with our needs without even maybe calling it needs, and we're being when we do that. And I think that is just so important. And then I do check in with my integrity, because I think when we aren't honest with ourselves, like why do we say a sentence the way we say it? Am I trying to manipulate to get my way, or are we really loving the other person full being? we're energized when we come from that loving, integrous place. It's probably one of the greatest ones. And like I said, curious, and I think you look in the snails, at least you were curious, and it was so beautiful. And those 5 minutes, yeah, I'm sure they energized you, and you made up those 5 minutes tenfold throughout your day with efficiency and clarity and joy. And because time is like time is illusion, right? And we can fold time by doing these kind of things because they're playful. I mean, that's what we got to remember too. Kids teach us this. It doesn't matter what age we are. Play is so healthy. It's imagination, and one of our greatest forces again is our creative imagination. So I do think all those things are energy building, energy enjoyment, and that's what I focus on when I want to build my energy.
I love that. I love all of those things, and I second all of them. I think that there are so many ideas, and I think we don't need to get lost in doing these big, big things. We can literally take 60 seconds in our day and do something that gives us energy. And I want to challenge our listeners this week. I want to challenge you all to find the things that are draining you and choose one of them to put a plug in that drain. Just say no. Just remove that from your life. Remove yourself from those situations. And then choose one thing, whether it's something we said or just something that already brings you joy, brings you energy, brings you fulfillment, and just choose that one thing in a very attainable way, very short thing, and commit to doing that every day this week. And I'm telling you short, I mean, breathe for 30 seconds even. It's enough, but it's intentional, and that can really shift your day. So that's my challenge for our listeners this week. One energy plug and one energy enhancer supercharger, and see how you feel at the end of the week. See if doing that and taking just a short amount of time each day shifts anything in your life, your relationships, your mood. I believe that it will. So okay. And lastly, let's see here. We have our journal prompts, and this could be a way to deepen a little bit more into finding the awareness of where these things are lacking. So take a moment, sit down, write these things out, and let yourself free write. We always encourage this because we don't want to get into the place where we're performative with our writing, especially. This is a place really let go, and whatever comes out comes out, and it can be very telling of what's in our subconscious if we allow ourselves to really write freely. So write these questions down and then free write the answers. What has been draining my energy the most lately? And the next one is, what activities consistently leave me feeling more alive? And then the last one, what is one small act of nourishment I can offer myself this week? And on the last one, I encourage you to write as many as you can think of. And that way you have a list and you can just choose from that list throughout the week. Choose one thing that just, oh, this is accessible right now. I'm going to do this and go from there. So I hope that helps. I hope you all gained something from the podcast today. And I hope this continues to unfold in your lives. And yes, if you like the podcast, please share with friends. Please like, please subscribe. We're so excited to have you here as our community, and we look forward to many more moments together. So until next time, we want you all to stay rooted
And keep on rising.
This has been Rooted and Rising with hosts Dr. Cheri and Ellice Boone. Through honest conversation, clinical insight, and creative reflection, Dr. Cheri and Ellice will empower you to reclaim your voice, your vitality, and your vision. This podcast is not about quick fixes. It's a return to deep knowing, gentle unraveling, and lifelong integration. Tune in each week, Wednesdays, 12 noon Eastern,